Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a card that features the latest Hello Spring set from Gerda Steiner Designs. It's a clear stamp set and is now available in the store, so if you resisted picking up the previous stamp set, you can now get them both together and save on shipping because this is definitely a really fun must-have spring set. And this stamp set is great for building scenes. But in today's card, I actually want to take all of those little elements and create not so much a scene, but just kind of a gathering of elements and really show off some of the fun stuff. And also to use a rainbow because I think that's a really great spring thing to use. I like to think of rainbows during springtime. And it also kind of ties in with St. Patrick's Day. And so to get started, I'm going to use Hero Art shadow inks, and I'm going to use them in rainbow order. And I'm using Red Royal, Orange Soda, Butter Bar, Cornflower, Green Hills, and Passion Flower. I decided that I would stamp the Hello Spring sentiment all across the diagonal of the card as a way to kind of tie in each color and create a really clear flow from the top left to the bottom right. But that I wanted these little chicks, the little gathering of two chicks, to be a focal point too. And since it's about the same size as the Hello Spring sentiment, if I made that my large yellow element, then I could just continue on with the Hello Spring afterwards. And so I will be using Copic markers to color in these little chicks, and I actually decided to add a few more elements and a few more of the birds and the butterflies that would be colored with Copics. And so you'll see that I switch over to black ink sometimes too. The black ink I'm using is the My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink because it works well with Copics but gives a nice dark impression. So once I have the Hello Spring stamped out, I'm ready to move on and adding other elements. You'll see there at the top of the screen that I have a scrap piece of paper to stamp off on. And that's because I'll be using the same stamp in several colors. And so I want to make sure that it's definitely clean in between and that I'm not getting a little bit of red to mix with my orange or orange to mix with my yellow. That could look cool, but that's not what I'm going for in this particular instance. So I'm always sure to clean it off by wiping it off onto like a damp napkin, but also stamping it off is a great way to clean them off. So I decided to start with some small elements because I know that I can add one of each color in these small elements, whereas the bigger elements I don't necessarily want to add it in each color. So I decide I'm going to get in a heart and a flower of each color, and so as I start to fill the scene. For these elements, I'm stamping really close to the sentiments, but as I go, I'll start trying to spread things a little bit more away because I want there to be a relatively tight diagonal line, but then a couple of elements to come a little bit farther away, add a little bit more interest, kind of come into that white space so it doesn't look too blocky. I decide to think about what colors would look best with certain elements, like that bird would look really cute in blues or yellows or reds because birds are really that color. And I'm also trying to keep in mind where I will be adding in some Copic colored elements later too because I can't have 3 or 4 red birds. So, I just want to be careful in terms of my balance. And also, each thing has a different weight. The bigger things have a larger weight, but the things that are Copic colored will also be heavier because they aren't just the outline stamp. I will be giving this card for Easter most likely, even though it doesn't directly say Happy Easter on it. And that's why I went with those little gathering of Easter eggs as well. What I really like about this stamp set is it's great for springtime and Easter, but you could really use some of these other elements all year long. You're not going to need to save your birds only for springtime, for instance. But then there's these little tiny things like the Easter eggs, like the Hello Spring, that are really great for Easter and allow you to bring it to more of that Easter place if you want to, without, being the overwhelming main part of the stamp set. So your butterflies, your birds, your tree, your bunny can be used all year long, but then there's those little tiny things like those Easter eggs that are really going to bring it into Easter, and I think that's pretty cool. I just really think that Gerda thinks very carefully about her stamps and provides you great value. That stamp sheet is covered in stamps. There are barely any wasted room, so you definitely get a lot for your money. As you can see here, I'm starting to build some things a little bit farther away from the scene, as I mentioned I would do. And for those things that are a little bit farther away, I was also thinking about things that might kind of make sense to be flying a little bit, as I thought that would kind of explain as why they're moving out a little bit or floating and give it more of that light feeling. I'm just going to keep adding until I feel like it's full. I want to have about the same number of elements in each color. So if I have 5 blue things, I want to go with 5 green things and so on, so that no color is more dominant than the other. And I also am trying to do just a touch of overlapping, like maybe putting a green thing next to a blue thing, just so there's a slight bit of blending with the colors and they're not too stark and clearly divided. So here I'm going in for the coloring of the little chicks, and I'm going to use Y04 and Y06. I'm doing a very light amount of shading, just a little bit so that it's not super flat. And I even go in with a little Y08 because there's not too much of a difference in some of the Y colors, and I want to make sure that I do get a little bit of depth there and some blended out. When I do color in the other smaller elements, I am not actually going to add as much. I'm not going to do as much blending. They're going to be just more solid colors because a lot of these images are quite small, particularly the butterflies and the birds, and so you can color them really quickly. I also chose to go with a very yellowy orange for the beak because if I went with too much of an orange, I thought it would stand out too much. So here you see that I'm going back in with my Black Licorice Hybrid ink and just adding in a few things that I can color in with Copic markers. I did this because I felt like when the chick was the only thing with the black ink, it drew too much attention to it, and I didn't really want that. I didn't want it to be the only thing you saw on the card. I wanted the card to look very cohesive and for the chicks to be pretty balanced with the other large Hello Springs. And so I think by adding in just a few other things colored in with Copic markers, I get the balance back in the card. So I'm stamping a couple of the butterflies, the birds. Like I said, I will be Copic coloring them, but I'm not going to show you that coloring because it's very, very simple. It's basically solid coloring. And with these little tiny images, it's hard to show that coloring on camera, as you'll just mostly see my big old head. So that's it for the card. I'm just going to mount it on a green mat and then onto a white cardstock card. And I'm going to leave you links to the products in the video description below, as well as to the Gerda Steiner Designs shop, so you can check out this stamp set. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Bye.